Kia ora koutou katoa. Hi, Rawari Love here. What a stunner of a weekend we had. Welcome to the Papakura revival. Things are starting to peak. They're starting to reach a climax. Within a climax of a revival, you start getting a lot of activity. In other words, you start getting clamour. That's right, it gets noisy. Revival is a dimension. The best way to understand it is this. When you plug in power into our normal 240 volts system, you plug in your television, your jug, or whatever the scenario, obviously the maximum is going to be 240 volts. Albeit, when you're talking about the kingdom of heaven, you're talking about 2,400 volts. So when you start getting a revival dimension intercepting our real estate, our area, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, when you start to get an interception of God's authority taking place here, then you start getting an increase of voltage. Now with that, you get clamour. People start to shout. They get very animated. They start jumping up and down. You get dancing. You get all sorts taking place. I would rather have that atmosphere where there's the activity of the Spirit than not have it. The book of Proverbs chapter 14 verse 4, it talks about if there's oxen in the barn, it's going to be messy. If there is no oxen in the manger or the barn, then it's going to be totally clean. I mean, you can walk into some church services, I mean, it's totally clean. However, what I love about that proverb, it says, but in order to have a harvest, you've got to have the oxen. I would rather have the mess that goes with having the latter of the oxen than have no oxen and it's predictable, boring, tamia. I'd rather be in a position where things are dynamic, where you walk in, you don't know what's going to happen because anything can change. That's what it's like when you enter into what is called a revival paradigm. A revival paradigm is a dimension. It's very unique and it's very powerful. The Papakura revival now is starting to reach another level. The oxen is in the barn. I'm allowing it to be in the barn because I'd rather have the workings of God's Spirit taking place in the affairs of the life of the church than have no workings of the Spirit and it's all predictable. What does start to take place is this: you start to attract ones when you start having a revival paradigm. We've already got ones that are travelling from Wellington. Wellington's about 8.5, 9 hours drive. We've already seen different ones coming from different parts of the city, and that's going to happen a lot more. Because we're only at the seed form at the moment, but already it's starting to climax in terms of the dimension of revival. Big area of every revival, particularly when the meetings are animated, there's a lot of energy. I mean, everybody gets hungry. I can see the revival boosting the economy of Papakura. So therefore, the business community will see the revival as a very healthy thing for the area. So I'll get a relationship with different cafeterias, restaurants, might even open one ourselves. The prophetic sees the future in real time. The question that ones will be asking, was the Papakura revival spoken as a prognosis, as a prediction for the future? I would venture to say that even before the shift in dimension, even before the meetings kicked off, even before I turned up here, you can guarantee that it would have been spoken in different churches in this Papakura area. There would have been intercessory meetings, there would have been prophecy spoken where God himself, through his Holy Spirit, would have said that he was going to do something unprecedented within this area. Now, I can't vouch for that because I wasn't around at that time, albeit I do know. I was in Wellington and God spoke to me about a move that was going to happen in Tamaki Makaurau, and it was going to be unprecedented. He didn't underscore that it was going to be in Papakura. I was actually looking for real estate within the central areas of Auckland City. However, it worked out that the last premise that I'd look at would be the one in Papakura. And it would eventuate, for good reason, and because it was supposed to providentially take place, that I'd end up here. One of the challenges you have with any revival is what happens when the crowds are so large that you can't accommodate them in your venue. Okay, what say we had crowds of 1,000, 2,000? What say we had a crowd of 3,000 wanting to get in? Well, you could imagine it. It'd only be a fraction of that number that could fit into my venue. That means that most people wouldn't fit in. So I thought to myself, okay, where else? I'm standing at the place. I'm in the park, and it's one of the parks in Papakura, and they've got a stage here, as you can see. And I thought to myself, well, if Reinhard Bonnke can go outside, what's stopping me from going outside? It's got lights here, obviously it has power sources and all that sort of thing. And taking it outside would be the option if it got to the number level where we were in the thousands. Accommodation is a large part of the revival because people are travelling from different parts of the nation, different parts of the world. I'm already developing relationships with different motels in the local area. Some of them I've said that I'd act as an agent. And imagine this scenario. You were leaving from England and you could get a VIP package which would guarantee that you would get shuttled from the airport when you arrive to your accommodation, from the accommodation to the venue to the meetings. I mean, that would be a very enticing package, I'm sure. It was on the day of Pentecost that a mighty wind blew. The force of that wind was at such a level that it took 120 who were in prayer posture in the upper room. They would go from a people who were in the posture of prayer, wait mode, to find themselves, as soon as the mighty rushing wind took place, they went into go mode. And they found themselves impacting the entire area of Jerusalem because of the mighty rushing wind. We find tongues of fire came. And when we really look at the force of that wind, it came within a sound. Every time God brings a move of His Spirit, it's always encapsulated within a frequency authority. And if you know anything about frequency and physics in the area of frequency, it's always based on a vibration law. Well, a vibration of God's goodness was manifest on that day. The question may be asked of me, What has the Holy Spirit said to you, man of God, relating to this current Papakura revival, which on a macro scale is going to impact all of Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland City? What has the Holy Ghost said to me about what he's going to do? It's going to be a wind authority. And I will say, within each wind you've got currents. The name of one of the currents of this wind is confrontation. It's going to be provocative. God's not going to manifest his goodness in a revival metaphor unless there's going to be accountability. We need accountability. Come to this revival. Every weekend in Papakura we have revival meetings. Saturday night at this stage we have one. Sunday morning we have a family service. Sunday night we have once again a revival meeting, which is prophetic worship outreach. Come and join us.